Hello, you gorgeous teacher. How are you? If you're one of my lovely regular listeners, welcome back. If you're a new listener, you're most welcome. Just before we get started, bit of housekeeping. So, what's going on? If you haven't subscribed to this podcast, I literally cannot think of a single reason why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of time to go and hit that subscribe button now. I'll wait. Okay, on with the show. Welcome to Everything EFL podcast. My name's Erin O'Byrne and I absolutely love sharing my knowledge with you, my darling teacher, and helping you build not only community but your students' confidence. I truly believe that a positive frame of mind is essential for your students to learn. There's also a bunch of other teachy stuff thrown in for good measure too. Are you ready? Let's go! Please welcome Ania Karwowska. How are you, Ania?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. This is take 2 of our episode because the sound quality wasn't great last time. So I'm actually really happy to speak to you again because you gave me so much good information. I'm just so happy just to hear it all over again, to be honest. Now, let's start by just letting everybody know who you are.
So my name is Ania Karwowska. I'm talking to you from Canadian-American border. I'm a teacher trainer and translator. I work in the area of literacy and I run my language school, which is called Polca languages, where I work with neurodivergent students.
Fabulous. Now, we were chatting a while ago and we decided to focus on ADHD and dyslexia. And you told me that they often go hand in hand, which I was really surprised about. But can you just give me a very quick overview of ADHD?
So in a nutshell, it's either you are very hyperactive. In general, you have problems with focus and organization. With ADD, mostly the focus is that you suffer from. So you just can't focus on something unless you find it very interesting or intriguing, and then the hyper focus kicks in. It's a kind of like an OCD anxiety because you focus on one subject and you just dig deep. Other than that, you don't do it. It's either too boring, you can't focus like on a book or material.
So it's kind of like all or nothing. In a way.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
That's a great way of looking at it. And just a quick overview of dyslexia for people who probably just think it's something to do with finding it difficult to read letters.
Yes, so this dyslexia is different brain organization. So in a nutshell, yes, you struggle with reading. Dyslexia is not a vision problem because it's how the brain processes, let's say, the images. It's a very, very general and very, it's not very specific. So please, if someone is working in that field, do not get upset with me. I'm just trying to be very, very general. Dyslexia often comes hand in hand with ADHD, but very often dyslexic students suffer from dysgraphia as well. And dysgraphia is the pencil grasp and also issues with writing. So for example, dysgraphic students' written performance is very hard to be read. So it's like, I don't know, Rosetta Stone or whatever. Just you can't read it.
What are the common misconceptions about ADHD or students with ADHD?
So that girls very often, especially in a school setting, they get undiagnosed, which is often connected to the way the society brings up women. So they are supposed not to make trouble. So this is why girls get undiagnosed. Other issue is that ADHD people are jumping jack all over the place. Not very often. Very often the core of the problem is, yes, they can be fidgety, etc. But the core problem is lack of focus. They just can't finish anything because they find it boring. It's so tedious.
And how about misconceptions about dyslexia?
The main misconception is that it's a vision problem. It's not a vision problem. Other is that the dyslexic people with dyslexia, they flip letters. It's like they mirror it. And it's not that. Like mirroring is developmentally okay until the age of 9. it's the brain reorganization. However, it's not what dyslexia is, but it's not a vision problem.
That kind of, I think a lot of people do just think it's the way people see letters, isn't it? So what are some common signs for teachers to look out for regarding ADHD?
Students are very often dreamy. I say dreamy, like especially if you're a teacher and you teach a class and you see them differently than they see themselves because you're in front. So you see those students who just tend to, oh, there is a bird chirping, right? And their attention swiftly goes away and they just get lost in the outside world, or they get very fidgety, or they can't finish tasks, for example. I'd say especially completion is a huge issue, and it's really, really visible. I'd say even in kindergarten, it's very easy to see that there are some children who follow through. And of course, I'm not saying like 2 hours, but even in 20 minutes interval, they follow through. And for others, it's so difficult. They just try to look, they're looking for something else. Like, oh, there is the toy, or something happened, or let's look at the door, etc. So like the attention issues.
And did you say last time that they sometimes cope with this by kind of being the clown, the class clown?
Yes, very often, especially when the kids go to school, there is like, when we look like at the group, very often we have the leader, like the kid, the class clown, who is always very funny, he's making jokes. So yes, that too, if it's combined with inattention or inability to complete tasks, inability to focus, very often we call those kids that they are so lazy. Like if only he worked harder, like we tend to say. And yeah, that's like I'd say as a stereotype of an ADHD student in a classroom.
And how about dyslexia? What are some common signs for teachers to look for there?
Very often, and I'd say even in kindergarten, if children have problems with rhyming, when you read the pitter patter, all those nursery rhymes we do like with the kids, Mother Goose, I think, I'm sorry, I forgot, my kids are older, but even if they have problems with repeating the rhythm of a story, clapping, because clapping is sequencing. Let's clap a sound, or let's clap up syllables. Repeat after me. That's very, very simple. Children who have speech issues, if they cannot pronounce center sounds. For example, children struggle, they do not pronounce p, or they pronounce p as b, p as d, p as g. These are like for example, a kid can say okay instead of okay. Or instead of bubble, they say pebble. So these are those little signs. And then especially, I know that in UK, they use lots of jolly phonics, like the program. So you have those initial sounds for kids. When you have that, for example, syllable b, and you do everything with b, and they have problems either repeating the story after the teacher, or they can mispronounce. They cannot grasp, let's say, how do you write the letter B? So if you teach letter formation and the child is struggling, so these are like, I'm not saying the child has dyslexia, but then I'd probably pay more attention to that child and check if there are any other issues, if parents are willing to say, because dyslexia is hereditary. So very often, maybe not a parent, but an uncle was dyslexic. And we don't remember that because we were kids, etc. So these are those tiny little like red flags that we can look out to.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And what about some, like, once you have a child with like ADHD in your class, what sort of practical strategies can you advise so teachers can try and deal with it in class?
Yeah. First of all, do not have him sit at the back of a class. I know everyone loves it. I loved it too, but that's not a good idea. Having sit, not even in the first desk. Second, so that it's not like you stigmatize and you sit close to the teacher because of this or that. Then have a signal that you work out with your student to keep him or her in check. For example, when you're passing through the class, just put gently your hand on the desk and go away. Just have that one signal so that he knows, okay, oh, I'm losing attention. Okay, keep him in check. Give him something to do. Even if it's bring me some chalk. Oh, how about you help me with this? And chunk it down. Very often, ADHD students, but not only, they have problems with that, the working memory, so with sequencing stuff. So when we chunk down an aspect, I know, grammar, vocab, reading comprehension, whatever we're working on, just to smaller, tangible tips, and try to use graphic organizers. In younger classes, for example, going from one part of the lesson to the other. Like, say, okay, we have now warm up, so let's have some fun. And now okay, so what does the, I don't know, faces? So now we're going to practice. So now it's practice time. So like predictability, that one chunk is predictable after the other. With writing tasks, graphic organizers are very helpful. Like, so that get that a structure, where to start, what should be in the middle, and how to finish.
And does it help if you sort of go through the aims of the class at the beginning and say, this is what we're going to do today?
Absolutely, yes, because it gives them predictability. And then as the lesson goes by, I would just say, okay, I would ask any student, do you remember? What were the aims of our classroom today? And they may remember. If they don't, that's okay. So now we remind them, and by the way, I told you like half an hour ago that we're doing this and that.
This is all very simple stuff, which is good, because I think, teachers, I imagine, would be quite overwhelmed if they have at least one student with ADHD or dyslexia in class.
Yes.
So just these little things are really, really helpful. How about dyslexic students? What practical strategies can you offer?
First of all, make sure that the dyslexic student is receiving structured literacy intervention. So that depends how dyslexic the student is, whether the child is being pulled out of the class for an intervention with one-on-one or small group. But I'd make sure that they do receive evidence-based help. Other than that, chunk down the material to very small pieces. Make sure that by the end of the class, the homework is written down. It can even be like coded into small parts, because sequencing and short-term memory is something that they suffer from. Make sure that, as a teacher, there's a fantastic strategy. Actually, I was planning to write a post about it. It's called straightaway enquiry. So we all know that English is a morphophonemic language. It has opaque phonology. If you teach the student that everything makes sense, for example, if you have a word, you think of a word base, and then you have prefix or suffix, or you teach them that connecting vowel in English is I, and I only appears in the middle of words that come from Greek and Latin. Once I saw a very nice lesson that was led by a teacher. It was grade 2, so the kids were 7 years old. They were doing structured weight inquiry, very simple words with a huge poster when they were playing. Oh, this is a base. Now let's play some puzzle. Where is the prefix? Where is the suffix? What may it mean? So with dyslexic students, when we teach them language, we should show them that the language makes sense. That I say, like, language is like mathematics. It makes sense and it all comes into the right place. Another strategy that I saw in Montessori classroom, and it's evidence-based, it's fantastic. It's called multisensory grammar, where you use figures and codes when you talk about tenses. So even the present simple can be jotted down to very simple elements, like this is the verb, this is the object, but instead of calling them and cluttering their memory with something they might not need or use in the long term. Like I was taught Polish grammar, but truth be told, I don't remember a lot. Like I had to go back to it as an adult. So just using, for example, that, the circle is the subject or the triangle is the verb, it just gives them that organization and makes it so much simpler.
I would argue that's good for every student.
Exactly, yeah.
I love that. Is there anything else that you would like to say to the listeners regarding these two? Would you call them conditions? Is that the right word nowadays?
I would just say it's just the brain is differently wired. I'd say, like, dyslexic people are super creative because they have to hack everything, because like life can be, dyslexia is not only that you struggle with reading, but dyslexic people struggle with sequencing. That's why I say it, and Dr. Linda Siegel, she's from UBC, she says that IQ tests are not good for dyslexic students because it measures sequencing, and dyslexic students struggle with sequence in a nutshell. So they will just be at the lowest scale, not because of IQ, but because this is the skill they have to work on. So from practical things from classroom, I would say, as a teacher or as a parent, buy whole-net literacy primer and word walls. They are cheap as chips. They cost like $20 in Canada or something like that. I don't know, they're very cheap. They're good structured literacy interventions for dyslexic students. As a teacher, please incorporate low-stake tests in your classroom, for example, every Friday. Do not grade it. Do not discuss it. You did it good. You did it well. Just provide silent feedback. And by silent feedback, I mean just even write 2 sentences to each student, or even better, just talk about the mistakes, but do not point to the paper. Just say, in general, you did fantastic. However, I noticed that this and that. And what I would also suggest is to practice word recall, because it affects working memory. So it's like it goes hand in hand. Practice metacognition. So try to figure out why you're struggling with a problem. If we teach students how to think about their own learning, that's like a win. That's like a huge win for the students. And also spaced practice. So do not teach students to cram, or even teach them to take breaks in the middle. Like cut some slack on Tuesday, study on Wednesday, cut some slack on Thursday. Because then when you review the information, you practice retrieval, you practice word recall. And it's like as if your head is a huge filing cabinet. So you're just taking the files out. But if it's messy, then you can't find the documents. I know, because I was just cleaning my filing cabinet yesterday. So hence the metaphor. But if you just learn how to store the information and record it back, that will improve students' lives, whether they're dyslexic, ADHD or not, whether they learn English, history, geography, math, etc. It's just so helpful. So I would say this is something I would like to say to parents. And if you're a parent of dyslexic child in UK, you have Freemasonry, I think, organization. They do fantastic Autumn Gillingham support for children. And if you are living in an English-speaking country and your child is struggling, look for Autumn Gillingham tutor, educator, or free resources. Nowadays, we have teacher pay teachers and other websites when you can go to, or even Facebook group, and ask like for some materials. Some are very cheap. And if you cannot afford the tutor, get that whole-net literacy primer, word walls, buy some materials. And I can assure you that if you spend half an hour with your child 5 times a day, they will progress and they will not struggle. And if your child is struggling with writing, then I would recommend a book that is called Writing Revolution. It's based on the Hoffman method, and it's showing how to teach writing and writing across all subjects. So it's not only languages, like you can use it in scientific writing, essay writing, report, and so on and so forth.
Fantastic. I'm going to put all of the links in the show note to help our teachers. Where can people find you, Ania? Because I love your social media posts. I think they're really useful and really interesting, and I'd love more people to follow you.
Thank you. So you can find me on LinkedIn when I'm Ania Karwowska Polca Languages, or at Instagram, which is handle Polca Languages, POLCA_languages. And that's where you can find me.
And I will put those links on the show notes as well. Ania, thank you so much for your advice. Even just this little bite-sized episode, it's just so full of useful information. So thank you so much again.
Thank you so much, and have a lovely day. And thank you for inviting me.
Okay, guys, as per usual, have a lovely, peaceful week. Look after yourselves and share the love. Bye.